It's night and day.
Dissidia Final Fantasy.
Night and day back again.
Yes, back in the world of Dissidia Final Fantasy.
Back exploring more of the new Kam'lanaut DLC update.
Yes. We get to see some of his fighting, what he actually does on the battlefield. So, we're gonna go destroy some people really quick with him and see how that turns out.
Yeah, but first, go to customize, and we have to go over his skins.
There you are.
Alright, so here's Kam'lanaut.
Hey,
We're gonna show his different colors and the skins.
Where you at, Cammy?
Yeah, so
Wow.
for the first skin, you get armor that he actually wears in Final Fantasy XI in the fights when you battle him. Most of the time, actually, in Final Fantasy XI, when you see him, he's wearing more formal robes, like this purple and black robe combination, because he's a leader. He's a Grand Duke or an Archduke of Juno. So he has a high position,
Right.
and he's dressed more formally. That's actually his second skin in this game, is his formal robes.
Interesting.
Alright, so let's see the other colors. What do we got here? Huh. Kind of a Dark Knight take on it.
Yeah. I like that. This is the black and purple, I guess. Like the robes that you were talking about, his color scheme. That looks pretty cool.
A little bit, but there's a lot more purple in those. Whereas here it's just a highlight.
Yeah.
This looks more like just a realistic armor set for him.
Yeah, that's true. This is like a royal set of armor that wouldn't see battle.
Yeah.
And this is more of a like actual
Knight armor, yeah.
yeah.
Although still he's got that more like high tech looking torso.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
There's weird
but yeah,
matrix on it.
The actual armor part does look more realistic, yeah.
The next one, just whoa, that looks pretty cool. Like
Yeah.
I like the worn kind of appearance. Like it's like faded in certain areas or something like that. I'm not sure if that's like just shadowing or what that is, but it looks really cool. I like the black accents with the yellow, like the yellow orbs or glass fixtures that he has. Looks really cool.
Yeah, I like the red and black color scheme. You're usually a fan of the red and black
Yeah.
color schemes. That's definitely pretty cool. Let's check out his different weapons.
Yes. Ooh.
Yeah, I like that it changes the shield up too.
Yeah,
because the
for
shield is so
sure.
prominent in his design. Let's see what else he's got.
Whoa.
Huh, that looks cool, but it's not actually spinning like
Yeah.
the first one.
Yeah, I was hoping that all of these would have this same
Rotation,
rotation
yeah.
effect. Yeah, but I was hoping this, like with rotation, this would have been awesome. But this is definitely more flare. It's like feathers, I believe.
Yeah, it
Seems
says
like-
winged
Yeah.
Dajin or Dejin?
Dejin?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm not actually familiar with that term. The sword, I think, looks really cool.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. The sword looks insane. Would do insane, like massive damage to anyone that you use it on.
Looks like impossible to use, but like if any part of it touched you, you would just be in pain.
Yeah, you'd immediately die from blood loss. Oh, this one's cool.
This one's not spinning either. Interesting. I was kind of hoping for that on all of them.
Yeah, me too.
This one looks really high tech.
Yeah, exactly. I like the, like it's really futuristic. The sword doesn't really seem very functional. Just
Yeah, the sword looks more like a key, honestly.
yeah, exactly.
Like it would open some ancient device. And it's called the Delkfoot Gallatin, or Gallatin? I don't know. But the Delkfoot is actually from a tower. There's a zone in Final Fantasy XI called Delkfoot's Tower.
Oh,
And that's where... Actually, the Final Fantasy XI board in this game, the Stellar Fulcrum, is the very top of Delkfoot's Tower. It's this ancient tower that is used as a power-controlling device. Like it controls this giant power conduit that stretches across the entire continent.
Wow.
We'll get more into that when we go into his backstory.
holy crap.
But anyway, let's check out some wonderful, exciting gameplay for Kam'lanaut and see how he does.
Yes, how he holds up. Electrification.
I will take you to a world of dreams.
I will gladly be your opponent.
Alright, so Kam'lanaut's battle in this game is mostly vaporization. I don't know what that's about. Is mostly based on end spells. So what that means is in Final Fantasy XI, yeah, electrification. So in Final Fantasy XI, red mages and certain bosses have the ability to imbue themselves with an element. So then he will have an attack that does that type of elemental damage. So he's mostly just sword based.
Right, makes sense.
He also has a charge with the shield if you do an air dash and attack at somebody. But if you do, all right, so if you do basically forward or neutral or back with the attack button for the bravery attack from jumping or from the ground is going to be a different element. So if you do forward, it might be, I don't remember which is which, but yeah, you just did terrification, so that's Earth. So I think back and X is the electricity.
Right, yeah, that was electricity.
So yeah, each one is going to be a different element.
Interesting.
So it's going to look like a similar sword strike,
right, yeah.
But each one does a different element. And you can also, I think, chain them, every single one of them can combo at least up to 2 hits. So you can get a follow-through attack with all of them.
It seems like,
yeah, like that.
There you go.
Oh, sweet.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that extension you did on the electric one looked pretty awesome.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I mean, he's definitely, like, he has that just swordsman style of, like, you gotta get in close and do, like, to do serious damage.
Right.
But, every now and then, like, you can charge up his electrification or whatnot, and it definitely seems like it'll do, a lot. Oh, come on. Like, he has a good range there.
Great Wheel is his first... Oh, crushed him.
That was awesome.
The Great Wheel HP attack is actually an attack he uses in his game also. I mean, almost everybody's HP attacks are obviously from their game, yeah.
Did what was required of me.
But in that game you have like a party of 6, so that's an AoE move there that can smack the whole party.
Oh, right.
That sort of thing. So the other thing with him is his dash attacks are the only attacks that are different from the sword. So you have every direction. Oh, there's Insomnia.
Wow.
So Insomnia is the new stage they added from Final Fantasy 15.
Okay.
So we can check that out and see how that stage looks, what the stage transition looks like and all that.
Sounds good.
Select a summon, Koopa.
So yeah, what I was about to say was, in terms of gameplay, we'll get to backstory as soon as we cover the gameplay. But his other concept is, if you jump and do a dash attack, he'll do a charge with the shield, which you can follow. It's kind of far hitting, and it's really fun to slam people into walls with it.
Oh yeah, I can see that. Oh, so that was a sword.
That's it.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. And then the other thing, if you're on the ground and you do a dash attack at somebody, then he'll do this super, instant jump attack like a Dragoon dive.
Oh, okay.
Like Kane and Bart's have.
Right, right.
And that's really fast.
Yeah.
So,
no one's really going to dodge that one. This one seems awesome.
yeah, I'm sure players that know the game will dodge it left and right. But yeah, like it has a surprising amount of range and a crazy amount of speed. Yeah, so that I like both of his dash attacks a lot.
Wow. Yeah, his dash attacks are great. I mean, with that additional range, because you don't get it often, it seems like, in his attacks.
Yeah. Oh, so this is Insomnia. It's the royal city where Noctis is from in Final Fantasy 15. So this looks like maybe the main road leading into the city, and it's gated at the moment. So everybody here decides to kill each other because they don't have the patience to wait for the gates to open. I don't know. But yeah, it looks pretty awesome. This is also a battlefield in that game for one of the fights near the very end of the game, which is really cool. I won't go into spoilers for that, since this is more going to be a video with a lot of spoilers for Final Fantasy XI. But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there's the gates.
I don't know what you're doing, but I don't like it. Oh, I'm confused.
He debuffed you.
Oh, God.
Also know your judgment is infallible.
Oh, no.
Thanks, Sphirion.
What are you gonna do to this city? Please.
Well, let's just say in Final Fantasy 15, Insomnia isn't always in the best state, so the potential for a lot of stage devastation during the stage transition here it definitely exists. So.
Okay. Yeah, that was terrible. Huh. Huh, it seems like
Ouch.
That was not what I wanted. Cool. It's not as much devastation as I thought.
Not yet.
Oh, not
Maybe
yet.
the second one will
Maybe.
really take it. Oh, cool, it's night. So they changed it to night? Or is this still an Alexander thing that's happening?
I think Alexander's gone.
Yeah, okay, so the stage transition changed it to nighttime. That's interesting. Pretty cool for
Wow.
the city. Yeah, you can see all the lights if you get up there.
Oh, yeah.
That looks pretty sweet, actually.
Whoa.
Oh, look at that in the background.
What the heck?
Alright, so it's hard not to go into spoilers for Final Fantasy 15 at this point. Those guys are like
Teach them the true meaning of fear.
the ancient kings, the ancient line of Lucis.
Oh, okay.
Like, the kings can actually materialize at certain points. It's very rare, but that's them watching over the battle. That's pretty sweet.
Oh my goodness. Like the kings of the past, basically.
Yeah, of Noctis's royal lineage.
Right.
Oh, the other thing Kam'lanaut has in terms of gameplay is his EX move. You see how there's a 4 in it?
Oh, right. Yeah.
That means you can launch it up to 4 times because it charges much faster than most EX moves. Now, when you actually deploy it, it sets a trap, like a sphere. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's kind of not the most deadly trap because it doesn't move, unlike most of the Emperor's stuff.
Right.
So, but the cool part, how you can try to abuse it is you can launch 4 at the same time.
Right.
And it refills so quickly, like you're already back up to 3. So
Wow.
you can try to litter the field, or at least an area around you, with as many as possible.
Okay. So you're not limited to just 4 on the battlefield at any given time.
No, you're limited to 4.
Oh, okay.
But it's good to have 4. That's
Right.
a lot of...
That's if you can get like a choke point or something like that and just have 4 lined up right there. I mean, you're pretty much set.
Yeah, I mean, even not a choke point. If you can make it so that people can't come near you without touching it, then they get a big debuff if they get into it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of real estate you can cover because it's a pretty big sphere if you
Right.
have 4 of them. I mean, it's still maybe not the best EX move because of it's a trap that doesn't move.
Yeah.
In order to perfectly make sure somebody gets hit with it, you might have to do it after you slam them into a wall or something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But in terms of trying to control the battlefield, at any point you can just keep throwing up as many as you can as fast as you can so that
Right.
anybody who comes near you has some crap to deal with.
Yeah, that's true.
Or maybe you can use it more in a team way, where if you have an ally who's a marksman, any sort of long-range caster, you try to protect them by putting
Right.
those around that person.
Yeah, that's true. So you can kind of keep them safe, and you can go on the offensive without having to stay around your traps to see who's fallen into them or not.
Yeah, maybe that's the best use for it. I'm sure people will figure it out over time.
Oh, yeah. I think I'm going to go to Cornelia. That's always a fun place to fight.
Alright, so let's get into Kam'lanaut's backstory. As we mentioned in the previous video, he's honestly...
It won't take much to win.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
and no rebuttal, so
Yeah.
I guess everyone agrees Lightning's just gonna dominate.
Yeah.
So, oh, eat a wall, Lightning. So I guess, yeah, he's probably the least anticipated character to come out for this game. There's a lot of salt upon his announcement. Just, yeah, the people who never played 11 are like, who the hell is he?
Right.
And 11 being an MMO, fewer people played it than the other games. And when I say that, it's not to say that 11 was not successful. It's quite the opposite, actually. Fewer people played it in terms of individuals. Like, there's however many million copies sold of each new Final Fantasy game.
Right.
Like 5 to 10 million, what have you.
Yeah. For the most part, most Final Fantasy games will be successful.
Right.
It's a matter of, like, I guess within the league of Final Fantasy, just where do you rate it?
So if 11 didn't see 5 to 10 million, it saw probably closer to 1 million. But it has the monthly subscription. So you have 200, probably not anymore, but at a certain point you had 200 to 500,000 people all paying a monthly subscription, right? So that adds up over time. I think they announced in 2012 that Final Fantasy XI was actually the single most profitable game in the entire series because of that.
Right.
So even though fewer people are playing it, it's still extremely successful because the people who are playing it are super into it and they're going to pay more over time. But anyway, fewer people total played it. So some people are like, who the hell is he? And even the people who like 11 and were into it didn't want this guy over other villains because Kam'lanaut was just never the major super hardcore end-all be-all villain.
Right.
Like in other games you've got, okay, this guy is the main villain or at least he's a major force. And in Final Fantasy XI, maybe, I'm sure other people wanted more imposing villains that played a more central role throughout more of the story. Like the Shadow Lord, the main villain of the first core part of the game, or Lady Lilith, or maybe Eldenarge. I mean, you have other people who were more threatening villains. Kam'lanaut, he was never the hardcore antagonist. For the first expansion of the game that came out, Rise of the Zillert, for the first probably 2/3 of that, he was shown to be... They were setting him up as the primary villain.
Oh, okay.
They were like, oh, he's the big bad guy.
Yeah, he's the guy to watch, kind of, like, gonna destroy the world or take over whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
But in the end, nope. He wasn't as prominent a villain as certain other people. Other people were, and we're definitely going to get into Final Fantasy XI spoilers in this. So if you guys aren't interested in that, look away. But yeah, other characters were shown to be more powerful than him and more knowledgeable than him and kind of manipulating greater machinations from behind the scenes.
Oh, right.
So he turned out to be not the most primary of villains, and there you go. So that's why even the people who do know who he is were like, oh, why him?
Right.
There's better representation for this game. Honestly, I think one of the reasons he was chosen is because he has an alternate outfit. A lot of the characters in that game don't.
Wow.
You fight them, you kill them, they don't
it.
dress up in different costumes and that sort of thing. And that's kind of an important thing for this game.
That's true, because they also want to be able to have additional content released with their characters and whatnot. So when you have someone that doesn't really have anything additional, it's like...
Oh, there's the robe skin for him.
Ah, there we are.
That's not the right color scheme, that's an alternate, but if the blue was purple, that would be pretty much...
That would be right on the head.
Yeah.
Interesting. It makes him look totally different.
Yeah.
Like, gives him a totally different feel.
Exactly.
Yeah, interesting.
Because it's definitely like one is combat oriented and the other one is more regal.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, I love that.
Kuja, eat the wall, buddy. Oh, again.
Sorry, my friend.
You're not that sorry.
Nope, not at all. There you go.
Whose balls are better?
Enjoy those balls, nerd. Oh, yes.
Okay, so to go into the backstory of Kam'lanaut, it's actually pretty interesting because his backstory ties into the backstory of the entire game. An awesome thing about Final Fantasy XI, more so than potentially any other MMO ever, is that the core game and the first two expansions were all set up together as like this continuous story. So a lot of times what you would expect in the game is when a new expansion comes out, it's just a new separate episode, like a self-contained separate story.
Right.
And for the later expansions, that is how it was. Like as soon as you get to Treasures of Ot Urgen and Wings of the Goddess, and all the later ones are all like, here's a tacked on thing. We don't really know how much funding we're going to continue to get with this game.
Right. So
we're going to do it more like, I mean, you see the same writing in TV shows.
It may end at any moment, so here's just in case. Some tied up storyline or something like that.
Yeah, here's our new story arc for the new season, and it's kind of isolated. If it ties into the previous stuff, it's definitely half-hearted.
Right.
Or you can see stuff with a well-written show like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where they're setting up stuff that pays off 2 years down the line.
Right. The long game is like 2 or 3 years before you actually get a payoff or something.
Yeah, like this is a really extreme, cohesive story, and it's all self-consistent, and then the other the more poorly written stuff that's making it up as it goes along. I mean, the individual season might not be self-consistent, much less like tying to a much larger...
the larger grand scheme of the story.
Right. But in this case, with Final Fantasy XI, the first core game and the first 2 expansions were all tied together very well. So even though you wouldn't expect that, it was done extremely well. And so Kam'lanaut played a big role in that. You start in that game, as in most RPGs, you're just doing some good, you're doing some small tasks here and there, and you haven't gotten to be a major player in the world at all. You're working up to it. So you start out as one of the 3 major nations. You pick whichever one you want because you get to be your own character, whatever. You're doing some missions, doing separate quests, doing whatever you want, and you do some more major missions for your nation, the one that you've chosen. And once you've done enough of those, then you worked up to a point where you can go and meet the people of Juno. Juno is more like a separate city that's kind of a central hub for all the nations.
Okay.
And they have... all the nations are autonomous with their own leadership and their own politics and all that.
Okay.
There's actually a ton of thought that goes into these MMOs. It's very impressive. But Juno still has a certain amount of authority beyond that as the central hub nation. Like, they were the ones who organized all the separate nations together to join up as the allied forces to fight the Crystal War that happened before the events of the game started.
Okay.
And
wow,
they
that's
also...
a lot of backstory.
Yeah, there's a ton. It's really well thought out. And I think a lot of MMOs have a really well thought up and developed world, but then after that it kind of stops.
Right.
Whereas this one kept going for the first, core game and the first 2 expansions. But Juno also is the central hub where all the airship travel happens, and anyway, there's a lot of authority there. So once you've done some missions for your nation, then you've proven yourself more capable of bigger things, and they pull you into Juno, and you meet with the Archdukes, and that's where you first meet with Kam'lanaut and his brother, and they're the Archdukes of Juno. They're dressed in the royal outfits.
Garb.
Yeah, they're not seen as villains or anything like that. They're just like, okay, thanks for meeting us. Please do this mission for us.
Right.
And they're not like super over the top like a lot of villains are, where it's like you see it coming from a million miles away. Like, okay, this guy is drawn evil. He has the mean eyes and everything.
Right.
Like,
no foreshadowing. You just know as soon as he comes up on the screen.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
The music changes and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So with this, first you do a mission for them because you've proven yourself, and they're like, okay, we've got to stop the Beastmen. The Beastmen are evil. You've got to collect this magicite from all the 3 most prominent Beastmen races. So you go on that, you collect the 3 pieces and bring them back to him, and then that's that mission done. And there's nope, we're not evil. There's nothing like that. It's just like you're doing a legit mission for the Archduke or for the Grand Duchy of Juno.
Right.
So it's pretty cool that way. And then you go back to doing more missions for your own nation, and eventually you work up to fighting the Shadow Lord, who's the main villain of the core game.
Okay.
And the Shadow Lord is this big threat. He was the guy who united all the Beastmen forces in the Crystal War that we were talking about, that happened before the game started. And he is the one who basically threatened all of Vana'diel, that's the world of Final Fantasy XI, by uniting the Beastmen together. Juno was instrumental in stopping the Crystal War, and that was, I believe, Kam'lanaut and Aldenarch were responsible for uniting the allied nations under Juno. So, yeah, the Shadow Lord was defeated during the Crystal War, but he came back, and that's where your missions lead you, to stop the Shadow Lord's re-emergence, because he was this gigantic, super powerful threat.
Force.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you end up finally going through enough missions and gaining enough levels to do. You infiltrate the enemy fortress in the far, far north, learn more about the backstory of how everything happened with the Shadow Lord and how he came to be and all that. And then after you finally beat him, then Kam'lanaut and his brother Aldenarch, I could be butchering these pronunciations. There's no actual voice acting in that game, so if you guys know the correct pronunciations, you can let me know. But I'm pretty sure, anyway, on them. So after you defeat the Shadow Lord, then the 2 Archdukes of Juno, the 2 brothers, show up, and they're like, hey, thanks, Dick. That's exactly what we wanted you to do.
Yeah.
And then they summon these super badass Crystal Warriors to basically kill you.
Right.
And the Shadow Lord is like, no.
No thanks.
He uses like the last of his energy to kind of interfere and save you, that sort of thing.
Okay.
So the Shadow Lord stays dead, and you barely survive. I think they presume that you're dead. And then that's where Rise of the Zillert starts, which is the first expansion. So
wow.
now you've learned that these two guys, who you thought were human the whole time,
Are actually something totally different.
right?
Huh. That's really cool.
Yeah, they're a race called the Zillert, which is this super ancient race that nobody even knew existed anymore.
Wow.
That's how old they are. And the reason why nobody knew they existed is because there's almost no surviving members of that race.
Right. So they're the only ones left.
Not the only ones, it's more than just
Those two.
those two. Yeah, there's a small contingent. So that's where Rise of the Zillert starts. And then at that point, you've been saved and you go out investigating. You get a lead from a city, a pirate city, a hidden pirate city.
Okay.
And then you start investigating this ancient temple in the Outlands. And in this ancient temple, you fight some Tomberries, and eventually you meet some people of the Kulu race. The Kulu race was actually an offshoot of the Zillert race. The Zillert, they're the super highly advanced race. They also are telepathic. And they call the ability, this telepathy, they call it the Whisper.
Have I lost?
Yes, you have, sir.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Sephiroth doesn't take a knee, though.
No. Sephiroth kneels to no man. Well, at least I didn't get my butt like handed to me. It's definitely you definitely have to get used to him for sure with his moveset. He plays a lot different than most characters.
You mastered a new HP attack, Koopa.
Oh, sweet!
Nice.
No way!
Spirits within.
Koopa
So cool.
I shall harry our enemies.
You look hairy when you have that weird, gigantic
I
bodybuilder
must
form.
away.
I must win.
Koopa
I'll make my stand here.
Koopa
Witness my power.
Alright, so the Zillert are telepathic.
Don't you dare take us lightly.
They had best make this worth my time.
So they can all speak to each other, but there were a few of them born without the ability to do that.
Wow.
And then they actually outcast that group and said, no, you're out. And
Wow.
forced them to live they kicked them out of their capital city, and they forced them to live in the wilds on their own.
Wow.
So you learn about the fate of the Zillert and the Kulu at this point, because this was all 10,000 years ago, before like the events of the game.
Right.
There were the 5 playable races of the game, like Shantaro, she's a Tarutaru,
Right.
and other people are Humes, which look like human, basically.
Makes
And
sense.
that's what they thought, everyone presumed the Zillert were, because they kind of look like that, except they have face tattoos or whatever. So yeah, you learn from the Kulu that long time ago, the Zillert came into contact with one of the mother crystals. Oh, this is the Stellar Fulcrum, by the way, the board from Final Fantasy XI.
Right.
And we're going to explain how this battlefield, this environment, actually takes place in the backstory pretty soon. So you can see everything in here is kind of like, it leads to this central pillar that we're fighting on with a kind of a crystalline power source beneath it. So that the brothers, Eldenarch and Kam'lanaut, came into contact with this mother crystal, and Eldenarch was the one who actually first came into contact with it, and it gave him a vision of basically showing, oh, if you create this thing and open a gate to the gods, then you can enter into eternal paradise. And because of the telepathic connection of all the Zillert, they all received this message. They're like, oh, damn, this is amazing.
Wow.
This vision is... They're like, eternal paradise? I can get behind that.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty freaking good.
Right, so the entire species rallies to get access to this gate to the gods.
Yes,
Right.
the entire... Not the entire, very close to the entire, but the majority of them are like, yes, let us do this.
Right.
You know what sounds good? Paradise.
Yeah. And I guess all the ones without the telepathy have no idea, so they're just kind of out in the dark.
They're told about it, so it's not like they're kept in the dark.
Oh.
So the people who don't agree with this are the Kulu, though. The Kulu don't agree with it, and also the Dawn Maidens, who are this kind of like...
chance against me.
They are also Zillert, but they're like a religious leadership caste.
Oh, okay.
They're all highly skilled or highly intelligent female leadership,
Oh, okay.
like religious leadership. So the Dawn Maidens and the Kulu both have the same reservations. Like, okay, we're going to undertake this massive project to build this gate to the gods, and it's going to, because what's involved with it is on like a global scale.
Right.
The way that they decide that they can do it is going to be really intensive. It's going to take tons of work and tons of power. And in order to get this power, they're going to connect all 5 of the mother crystals that are known
Wow. Okay.
to a central core and use the power of the crystals to power a floating city, which they're then going to use to open the gate to the gods from there.
Okay.
And so because of all of this tremendous thing, like these crystals aren't next to each other, and they're not going to bring them next to you. They're like buried in the earth and all this stuff.
Right.
So in order to draw out the power of the crystals, they create this giant conduit system that stretches across continents.
Right. Like around the entire world, just to link these 2 things together.
Yeah, maybe not the entire world. I think this is all from the central continent, but it's
Okay.
like this is still like this gigantic
massive landmass.
Yeah, the largest single landmass in the game. So the Kulu and the Dawn Maidens both have the same reservations, which are, okay, if we do this and we use all this energy, what's gonna be the fallout? What's gonna happen to the actual rest of this world if we all do this and accomplish this and go through these gates to the paradise?
Right.
What happened to everyone and everything that's left here?
Right. Oh, that's awesome.
And then the Zillard are like, I don't care.
Right.
See, we're gonna be there.
Right. Right.
And you know what's over there?
Not
Paradise.
Just not answering these dumb questions.
So yeah, they're still all about paradise.
Right.
And so they're like, all right, let's do it. They do. They go through this entire thing. They build the entire structure, and it's so cool because before this time in the game, like you learn this like a third of the way through the first expansion pack.
Huh. Wow.
So all the time prior to this in the game, you could see these ancient places, and you didn't know what they were for.
Oh.
Like as a player in the game, you could just wander around and see all this stuff.
Oh, nice.
And you could see, oh, here are these gigantic things that are made out of this strange material.
Right.
But we don't know why. The players in the game called this one conduit that stretches across. It connects the crystals to the central core, and
right.
they've renamed it into the Spine of Dragora or something like that because it kind of resembles a dragon's spine or some creature's spine.
Wow.
Like because it's just this giant. It's made from cermet, which is this white. Like it's the same material as the walls in the Final Fantasy XI stage in this game.
Oh, okay.
So it's that like white kind of. Just a long line that stretches all the way across several maps or several entire zones.
Oh, okay.
And the people are like, oh, I guess it's a dragon spine. Or
Right.
they didn't know what it was. There's no dragon that large. But it's so cool that it's always been there since the start of the game.
Right. And now you finally get an answer as to what the heck is going on and what's used for.
Right. So now the Zillard decide to put their plan into motion anyway. They've built their floating city.
Right.
And they've got everything in place, and the Kulu and the Dawn Maidens are like, no, this is bad. So they do the subversive mission, this rebel strike on one of the 5 power centers that's connected to the crystals. They're like, we have to stop this at all costs. But they do it. I guess they're out of time because they do it as the Zillard are enacting their plan.
Oh, wow.
So the power is on. The switch is turning on, and then they blow up this one center while everything's connected.
Wow.
And the fallout is insane. It's an event that's called the Meltdown. And
Doesn't sound good.
yeah, it almost fully annihilates the Zillard race and the Kulu race.
Oh, wow.
Like, it wipes out, it causes devastation across the entire landscape. Like, the northern tower blows up and it's uninhabitable and all that. And trees near the explosion in certain zones are bent over and destroyed, and there's, like, weird crystalline kind of formations on the rock around, like, where it happened. And that's another thing where you can see it all throughout the game.
Wow,
like,
yeah.
Players didn't know what it was, but you could see, like, if you did the math and you, like, put the angles together on different maps that you traveled through,
Right.
you could see like there was a central explosion, and the fallout could be seen in all of these separate zones all across the game.
Wow.
Like here's like part of a cliff that's like this crater here. It's like sheen and there's a smooth wall, like there was an explosion, and here's more trees bent this way, and here's trees bent this way. So the center of the explosion happened, probably around
here.
this area called Kufum Island.
Huh.
And there's a whole chunk of that island that's missing because that was the capital of the Zillert.
Right.
And it was presumed to be destroyed, but it was actually phased out of our reality
What the heck?
into like a place called the Imperial Paradox. It's like it's actually transported within a crystal, and you can go into that area later in the game.
My goodness.
Anyway, that's not about Kam'lanaut specifically.
Yeah,
so
that's insane.
But yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Right.
Like the concept of the zone is called the Imperial Paradox, and it's like it's actually you're in a paradox.
Right.
Because you're in the zone that's within a crystal. So
That is mind blowing.
yeah, it's pretty awesome. Through the power of the crystal, you are inside it, even though it's now larger than you and simultaneously smaller than you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So this giant meltdown happens, nearly wipes out the Zillert race, nearly wipes out the Kulu race. The surviving Zillert are actually put into a state of suspended animation.
Huh.
The surviving Kulu are warped by the fallout, warped and kind of degenerate. So they turn into the Tonberries in that game.
Oh wow. Okay.
But unlike the majority of Final Fantasy Tonberries, these are not cute, cuddly Tonberries. These are kind of ugly, deformed,
Grotesque.
mutated
Tonberries.
Tonberries. Yeah. So they don't look like great. There's no like saving. Oh look, well at least they're a cute Ton. No.
Yeah.
They didn't really get a plus side to this.
Oh man. It's like all the Tonberries I've ever seen are cute. Now they're gross, deformed Tonberries. They don't even get to win on that.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I mean they're still deadly in all the games, even when they're cute. But yeah, in this case, they're like ugh. So the Kulu kind of lose all touch with themselves, and the only reason this one is able to talk to you is through some like weird ancient connection or whatever. Like you have to fight them as Tonberries before she can regain a sense of herself and tell you this story of the past.
Wow.
Anyway, it's really they prevented disaster maybe, but they definitely caused a disaster definitely in this whole thing. So if you take them at standard video game face value, they still did the right thing. But if you look into it and put a little more thought into it, like, did they really? We don't have enough info.
Yeah, we don't know what the other side have looked like.
Right.
Yeah.
So the Zillert go into suspended animation, and that's why it's 10,000 years later when the events of this game start, and the other 5 races, the playable races, have then been formed from, I think, the Tears of the Goddess is what brought them into being. Something, I don't know if that's exactly what happened, but that's the lore of the game itself.
Right.
Like, that's at least the religion that's been passed down in the game world.
That's what they believe it is.
Yeah. When the Shadow Lord came into being, the energies released at that point also woke up the Zillert. So Kam'lanaut and Eldenarch end up going to Juneau, which is kind of the closest place at that point, and trying to get their bearings. At that point, Juneau is kind of a small fishing village.
Wow.
It's like it's not a big deal.
Right.
They're a subdivision of Bastok, one of the other nations. But then they bring their advanced technology and their advanced science, their advanced knowledge with them. So that's how they gain prominence there quickly.
Oh, okay.
So they're awakened and they're like, well, you know, this isn't all bad.
Yeah.
Because we learned something a long time ago. And what we learned was paradise is pretty good.
Yeah.
Let's go there.
Yeah. No matter what happens, I'm going to goddamn paradise.
A lot of our equipment is still intact. We built that stuff to last.
Yeah.
Let's get on this.
Yeah.
They've still had that vision, so they're still... Maybe the crystal was evil, maybe it was a crazy troll, I don't know, but these guys are hooked. Like, they had their first taste of crack, and they're...
Yeah.
They want more than the free sample.
Yeah.
So they're right on paradise. They bring the technology of crystal synthesis and all this. That's how you do crafting in that game.
Okay.
And they bring their advanced ways to Juneau. They're the ones who end up as the leaders of Juneau.
Right.
And it becomes its own nation, which is has a bunch of success, and it's 100% due to their strong leadership.
Right.
Sea of flames.
So at that point, they get back on their mission, and they can't at first. They can't just jump straight to turning on the power and go straight to the Gate of the Gods in the floating city of Tulia and straight to paradise, because when they woke up, it was due to the Shadow Lord interacting with the crystals in a certain weird way. And that's the same thing, like they call it noise. They say, oh, there's some sort of noise going on because of the Shadow Lord. So he's kind of his entire existence is interfering with the crystals and the lines of the power and how it all connects together.
Right.
So because of that, that's why they get your ass involved at a certain point. Well, actually, first they defeat him in the Crystal War, but he's not 100% dead, and the noise still exists or whatnot.
Right.
So yeah, then you get involved a little bit later, and then after he's done, that's why they're like, okay, we're free to announce who we really are now.
Right,
You killed the Shadow Lord. We're going to paradise.
Yeah, no one can stop us.
Yeah. We have super advanced technology. We have advanced warriors and these magical crystal warriors that we can bring forth and all that. We're good on all fronts. We don't have to. You did the one thing we needed. We're done. So Kam'lanaut and Eldenarsh then move freely to enact their plan. You survive, and you find out about the Zillert, and then you go to confront them. And all of the conduits for these 5 crystal power sources, like we were saying before, come together at a central location. That location is called Delphitt's Tower. That's the thing we were talking about before.
Right.
Which is a giant tower in Kufum Island, and the Stellar Fulcrum map, or the Stellar Fulcrum battlefield in this game, is the very top of that tower.
Right.
So you, as the adventurer player, go to stop them there, and Kam'lanaut faces off with you there.
Oh, okay.
So he's fighting some other heroes in the Final Fantasy XI universe.
Okay.
Shantaro's not actually there. It's like Lion is a human thief, redhead. I think she's called Lion because of her red hair or something like that. She looks kind of like a lion's mane. And then Zaid is a Galka badass Dark Knight.
Okay.
So, and Aldo, I don't know what he is. He's kind of weird. But anyway, they're major players in the Final Fantasy unit. They're all fighting, and he summons forth the Crystal Warriors to beat their ass or hold them at bay, and then you have to go fight Kam'lanaut yourself. He's at the tower, ready to initialize everything and get his plan going.
Good. Back in action.
Yeah. He fights you, and he goes into his armored mode there. That's where you actually see that in the game.
Ah, okay.
And so you actually beat him, and he's like, what? I don't believe it. I was a chosen warrior from the crystals and everything, and I was a Zillert with all blah, blah, blah. And then he tries to have the crystal warrior guys beat your ass, but they don't move. And he's like, what's going on? And then it turns out that his brother, Eldenarsh, is there pulling the strings. And his brother looks like he's in a 12-year-old body. Like, he looks like a kid.
Right.
And he's looked like a kid the whole time. And he plays it up, too. Like, when you meet them in Juneau the first time, Kam'lanaut is lounging on his throne, and he's like, okay, I need you guys to do this. And Eldenarsh runs in, he's like, oh, Beastmen, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
Wow. The thought of the Beastmen coming together with all this makes me shudder. Oh, God, I hope we can take care of. So he's playing it up the whole time really well. And then at this point, he's like, no, actually, I'm the older brother. I've always been the older brother. I've always been the one who's been in charge, coming up with the plans and doing things like that. And he's laughing at Kam'lanaut. Oh, you thought it was you the crystals chose?
Wow.
Like, sorry, bro, but...
So Kam'lanaut had no idea.
No, Kam'lanaut knew he was
older?
Older, yeah.
Okay.
The reason that he didn't age is the same reason that Prish, another character, doesn't age later in that game that you meet. Because if you come in direct contact with one of these... I think it's like Magicite or a Mother Crystal, it's like a black Magicite, something like that. There's these super rare things that are connected, and if you come into contact with that, then it stops your aging process.
Oh, wow.
And it causes this weird like crystallization at some point on your body. And Eldenarsh, his thing is like it's under his eye patch. Like when whenever you meet him, he has this eye patch. And it's actually in his eye where the crystallization took place.
Oh, wow.
And later, at the very end of Rise of the Zillert, you have to fight him. So, because he's the major boss who's been pretty much running the show
Right.
for this whole Zillert scheme. He was the one who came into contact with the crystal, had the vision, had this whole thing set up into motion
Wow.
10,000 years ago.
My goodness. That's awesome.
Yeah, his story is great.
Yeah. So many like twists and turns throughout the whole thing. And the history behind it too is ridiculous. They had so much leading up to just like where the player gets involved.
Yeah, it's really well thought out. So yeah, Kam'lanaut is defeated, he's beat, he tries to use his Crystal Warriors to stop you, and they don't move because now they're obeying
Right.
Eldenarsh. Kam'lanaut basically dies there,
Huh.
and Eldenarsh has no sympathy,
Wow.
and he says he controls the Crystal Warriors. He has the Crystal Warriors beat the asses of the 3 heroes I mentioned before,
Right.
and then he activates the power of the thing that's all
Oh,
connected.
okay.
And it's not at the point yet where it opens the gate of the god and opens the way to paradise, but it does repower the elevator or the teleporter that takes you to Tulia, which is the city that's floating in the sky.
Right.
That thing's actually been floating automated for all of this time.
Wow. Yeah. So just waiting for someone to finally get back there.
Yeah, because it had all these. When you go up there, there's like these automated creatures. Like there's groundskeepers, they're called, and they
okay.
automatically detect you and fight you. They're kind of like advanced robots and
Okay.
things like that. Yeah, Kam'lanaut dies at that point, and that's why a lot of people are not like super impressed with his
Gung-ho.
inclusion in the
Yeah,
game.
because he's more of a like small role of evil.
Yeah, it's like he had a significant role in the history of the game and all that, but he was never the primary machinator, never the primary antagonist,
Right.
even though it looked like he was. So yeah, his brother Eldenarsh then takes up the reign. He activates the thing. You go up to the city in the sky, Tulia, to fight them off before he can get into the Gate of the Gods, which is the thing that was supposedly caused global devastation.
Right.
Although that's never 100% verified because you fight him and kill him,
Right.
and that's that.
So you never actually get to see what that entails.
Right, you never get to see what happens if people go into the Gate of the Gods and exist in the same realm as the gods. If it's actually paradise, if the crystals were like potentially malevolent and trying to wipe out the races or something like that, who knows?
Actually get to see a glimpse of what that
Yeah.
paradise would be.
So if you take it at video game face value, then it would be bad because they are bad guys trying
Right.
to do a bad thing. But then it doesn't really, to me, make too much sense why the crystal would give them this vision. At some point, some entity which is supposed to be good isn't good.
Yeah. Just how far up the chain
Right.
is the evil happening.
Right. If the crystal told them to do that, then either the crystal is bad or it's not actually that bad to go into the gates of paradise.
Yeah.
One of these two things has to be correct.
Right. Yeah, that's very true.
So yeah, that's the story.
Huh.
There's a lot of depth to it.
Yeah, that's insane. There's so much backstory and everything like that. Or like just for you to understand just like what drives them forward. It's not like, oh, just world domination or the basics. It's actually, oh, I'm just gonna get to paradise and screw anything else that's gonna get in my way.
Right.
So that's pretty awesome. I would like to see, like, maybe because the brother's like a little kid, I don't know how this would play like fighting wise in this, but I don't know. They also have Onion Knight and whatnot, so it's not like he would be the only child in the game.
I think maybe that's another reason they didn't include him, because the other rep from Final Fantasy XI is Shantado, who is a super powerful magic, very tiny character flying around.
Maybe.
And Eldenarsh is very similar.
Ah.
This guy gets on the armor and he fights you with sword and magic,
Right.
whereas Eldenarsh, when you fight him in the game,
It's just magic.
first he's fighting you with high technology. Like he's
Okay.
got all of these weird floating, I don't know if you'd call them like cubes around him, like this defensive matrix that you have to fight through, and he's like controlling you from a control panel.
Oh wow.
And then after you fight that, he's like, ha! He takes off the eye patch, and there's all this
Crystal.
energy running through it. And he's
Oh,
like,
wow.
now I'll fight you with everything, the usual.
Right.
I'm powering up my power. I'm charging my lasers. And then he just flies and he just starts shooting you with all this super high powerful magic. So Maybe that's a reason they didn't want to have everybody from Final Fantasy XI be... I still think the most likely thing is the skins. They want every character to have at least 2 distinct skins.
Maybe, yeah. Could be very much the case, because, yeah, they have a lot of, like, everyone so far, and just with each update, people are getting quite a bit of the different skins and stuff like that. And I'm sure there are going to be a lot more for sale that you can purchase, like, as DLC.
But yeah, really, in terms of relevance, Elden Arch would have been much better. Shadow Lord would have been better.
Right.
Lady Lilith, she was at least the primary villain of all of Wings of the Goddess, and she's more striking of a figure. Lilith looks like this succubus. She has like these giant wings and horns and red hair and the low-cut dress and all this stuff.
Right.
So,
you know the usual.
Yeah. She looks like a more unique character as opposed to another knight.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
This guy's floating, and he has a ponytail, and his shield's cool, but yeah, he's still a warrior kind of guy.
The dude's ponytail, like, he sweeps the floor everywhere he goes.
Yeah, Spirits Within is actually a move from Final Fantasy XI. Sword move that I think paladins and red mages have.
Ah, okay.
And I think it does damage based on how much HP you have or something like that. So it can be really powerful. Oh, here it has range. Okay. They just have to hold still for a second.
What the?
It's like a single stab, yeah. So that much is consistent. But it's based off of the name. It's based off of the name of the Square Enix movie, Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within.
Oh, wow.
Which was a huge, famous box office bomb. They spent so much money on it, and it was like super cutting-edge CG, but it didn't do that well. So you're enjoying the way he plays?
Yeah. I mean, he has a lot of... Like, getting around is definitely more interesting, because I'm used to playing someone that's either a lot faster, like you can do a lot of moves in succession quickly, or long-range attacks. So having to come in a little closer definitely changes up the playstyle a little bit. But I like his rush moves a lot, like the shield and whatnot. It's definitely, that's a lot of fun to just slam people into. And then his really quick move on the floor is really awesome as well.
Yeah, I like the 2 dash attacks when I was playing with him also. And there's probably a lot more nuance to the different elements than we've been able to determine, but yeah, so he's not the super slowest Vanguard type. He's actually a specialist. So he might not be as fast as the assassins like Squall that you're used to.
Yeah, that's definitely more of my playstyle, was like Squall and whatnot.
But he shouldn't be the slowest guy out there either.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he's like a lot faster than Golbez or something like that. Because he was always interesting to play with.
The sword looks cool there.
Yeah, when it lights up, it looks really awesome.
I am one step closer to paradise.
See, I'm one step closer to paradise, he says. So he's all about that.
Oh, nice.
And in some of his boss quotes, which we had in the other 2 videos, in some of his summoning and boss quotes, he mentions paradise and that stuff too.
Interesting.
So he's on point with those. That's still what he's all about.
It's not going to stop. Even in death, he will get paradise.
That's going to do it for this episode of Final Fantasy Dissidia NT.
Indeed. We will see you guys in the next episode, when there's another DLC to enjoy. Or when they actually patch the fight that we're supposed to take part in.
Oh, that's true. We'll show you guys that too.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, we'll see you guys in the next episode.